Hi, my name's Scott the Miniature Maniac, and in this episode, we're going to hopefully end up with a sick-looking, glowy Jedi sword thing. Sponsored by Dashlane.
Hello, welcome to Painting with Scott. I'm your host, Scott.
That's a new intro I'm trying out. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. What up, mini family? In this video, we're going to try to paint a glowy sword and do a little bit of an OSL for it in a quick and dirty kind of way without using an airbrush. Now, I've done videos like this in the past where I show the full process, leaving nothing out. I did it for painting a face, getting a smooth blend, and also doing NMM. And you can find all three of those videos right up there in the top right-hand corner of the screen. To demonstrate object source sliding, we're going to be painting a character from the game Hate, made by Cool Mini or Not, the champion of my tribe. And when we've completed her, she'll look like a gender-bent tribal version of Mace Windu. Alright, let's do it. Alright, I want to paint this sword purple, and I don't have a whole lot of really nice, vibrant purple, so we're going to do some experimentation today with some Chimera paints. We're going to use their violet and their white, and also a little bit of their satin medium, just so it's not so intensely matte. So we'll get some on the palette. Another thing I wanted to try today was, I started with a white undercoat for my sword, and I want to try building up in the reverse order that people typically build up in. So normally I'll start in the shadow and go up to the highlight. I'll start in the mid-tone and work down and work up. But in this example, I'm going to start at the maximum highlight, pure white, and then very deliberately layer darker and darker. So I want to see really distinct layers in my progression downward that I'll then blend later. So the first thing we need to do is make some progressions here. We need to mix some different colors of purple. So that's going to be my maximum dark purple, and obviously that's my maximum highlight. So let's mix a gradation here with little pools of paint. Now whenever you're looking at a paint plan and you see the word usage that says like 3 parts to 1 part, the word part refers to any unit you want. So in this case, part is just a pile of paint that is approximately the same size each time I do it. So we're gonna go in total a 4-part progression here, going all the way from white to violet. So we're gonna start out with 3 to 1, and then go to 1 to 1, and then progress from there. I could probably just do all the purple all at one time instead of having to clean my brush every single time like some friggin' pleb. You know, one thing that's probably worth mentioning is that we're going to be taking a layering approach to this and then blending it later, but layering in and of itself is a blending methodology. You can get a pretty seamless transition as long as you just use a large amount of layers. You don't need to wet blend or glaze. You can just get a nice smooth transition with just exclusively layering. Alright, and then in each of these little piles we're going to add, not white paint, that'd be a travesty. We're going to add satin medium because the Chimera paint is pretty matte, and I want this to be a little bit richer in color and also to have just a little bit of a satin look to it. So let's mix this up. I don't necessarily know if I need to add much water. We'll find out. The residual water in my paintbrush from rinsing it might just be enough for what I'm trying to do. What I'm finding right now is that this Chimera Violet is pretty strong, so I'm going to have to do another stage here of purple. And this time I'm not gonna really do a recipe. I'm just going to just put in a little dab of. Okay, there's kind of a big jump from the brightest one to the one after that, but we'll work with it. Maybe what we can do is we can take some of this and mix it with some of this to kind of get a little in-betweeny. All right, let's give that a shot and see what happens. All right, so I have this very nice bright white core here, and I'm going to try to preserve that as best as I can while I'm painting. So we'll start with the brightest highlight we have, and we'll paint the whole thing other than the very core of the sword. We have a lot of colors to work through, so just leave a little bit of the white behind. Not a lot of it. Now, I'm obviously using Chimera paint, like I said, but you likely don't have Chimera paint. So, and really any paint is going to work. Chimera probably is going to be a little bit more easy to mix than some paint range that you might have, because it's designed to do that, but any vibrant paint or any vibrant green or whatever kind of glowing effect you're going for, it'll probably work with what you have. The idea of working in stages and a progression is definitely not limited to the particular paint range that I'm using, so feel free to try it out with what paints you got, because I know that Chimera is kind of hard to get your hands on, and that isn't to say that it's like an amazing paint range or anything. Exclusivity does not mean high quality. Alright, that's still a little bit wet. I'm going to hit it with a hairdryer, and then probably going to do another layer of this. Side note, with these, like Kumini or not plastics, you got to be kind of careful with a hairdryer, because if your model starts to look a little weak at the knees, it's because it's melting a little bit. Now for a lightsaber, typically the core of the sword is brightest, so that's why I'm keeping the core white and working out darker toward the edges. You could do something really cool where like the cutting edge is the bright edge and then it gets darker from there. That would also look pretty cool. Whatever you want to do. I actually do think I need a little bit of water in this. Not that much. Well, that might have been too much. Okay. I think we've reached full opacity with our pastel lilac color here. We'll dry that out and then proceed to the next layer. Now I'm going to start small and then slowly increase the size of this particular layer that I'm working on, as to not totally run over the previous layer, because as I said in the introduction, I really want distinct layers, but that might be kind of hard with the number of layers that I have and also the size of the thing I'm working on. There may need to be some back and forth action that happens here to kind of see all the layers that I'm trying to shoot for. While I lay down some layers of paint, let me tell you about today's sponsor, and that's Dashlane. Dashlane is an all-in-one, comprehensive online security suite. You're getting a password manager, VPN, and dark web monitoring. Dashlane makes the slow and annoying parts of using the internet faster and easier via remembering your address, your credit card information, phone numbers, etc. And it shares it across all your devices, so you don't set a password on your computer and then forget it on your phone. Like that one time I was trying to get a room for Adepticon, I called the lady and she was like, "Do you have your credit card information?" I was like, "Oh no, I lost my wallet." I went and found it, gave her a call back, and the room was gone. Don't be like me. Dashlane lessens the risks of storing and sharing your online data by enabling strong password practices, by recommending passwords for you, and supplying you with a VPN to use while browsing on unsecured networks. The icing on the cake is that while Dashlane does store your personal information on premise, it is fully encrypted and can only be decrypted by your local master password on any of your personal devices. To try out Dashlane Premium for 1 month for free, follow the link in the video description. And to get 10% off of a premium subscription, use the code Miniac at checkout. Thanks for supporting YouTubers Dashlane. Now back to lo-fi electronic music and tiny brushstrokes. All right, I'm gonna mix another intermediate layer here and kind of come back in with it. Alright, on to the next layer, and we are very rapidly running out of space here on our blade thing. Okay, looking kind of cool, Oh yes, the beauty of live painting. Hello, Moose. Oops. Got a kind of darkish layer where I didn't intend it to be. Come back in with some of this brighter paint. Fix her up. All right, cool. You know, I'm just gonna jump all the way to this ending part here and pretty much just do like an edge highlight. This is not even the deepest violet we have. I think maybe the problem right now is I have too much bright tones. And I need to work in some darker color because a lightsaber kind of really works to a very, very vibrant mid-tone like pretty quickly. There isn't much bright color in the middle. I mean, there is, but this isn't giving me the impression that it's glowing yet. So let's see if we can kind of mess with the color distribution a little bit here to fix her up. Okay. I'm gonna rinse my brush off here and maybe start to tease some of this violet paint up the edge. Of my my blade here to kind of get a little bit of an initial blend going. I'm already forsaking my layering attempt here. I'm pretty terrible at layering just because, I don't know, it seems like it requires a lot of patience. No, we're gonna keep layering. Okay, on this side of the blade we still have a layering thing going on. All right, I'm gonna take some more purple and kind of work it up. I think there is too much bright color, so let's. Okay, maybe while that's still wet, bring in some of this. Kind of covering up my entire white core right there. Maybe that wasn't the wisest thing to do. All right, okay. I'm forsaking this layering methodology. I'm sorry, layering. You know, at a certain point, you just gotta let loose. All right, so we have a gradient established. It's nice starting with the white because working up those dark colors over white is a lot easier than doing the reverse. So now we'll just start to do some blending, and there isn't like a step-by-step procedure to this. It's mostly just me farting around with a paintbrush until something looks good. I added some more dark right there. I was looking at the other side of the blade, and the darkness kind of creeps down a little bit more, so I want to make sure both sides of the blade are looking pretty similar. Don't need to be identical, but pretty similar. Right beside me, I have a dampened paper towel that I can kind of use like the inside of my mouth to kind of clear a brush that has a color in it that I don't want. So if I need to transition from a dark color to a lighter color, or vice versa, I can just pop right in there. All right, cool, looking okay. I think we lost some contrast a little bit, so let's try to bring back some of that white. Cool. All right. Now I'm gonna take some of this uber dark violet and we're gonna thin it out with some water, and also I'll put some more of that satin medium in there, just because again I don't want it to be like full on darkness. All right, then we'll do some glazing here. Get our brush loaded up, dab it off, and then we'll just start to kind of ride this edge a little bit to intensify the purple let that dry and do it a few more times. Okay, I'm actually gonna go with a little bit thicker of a glaze here. And maybe do something more like feathering. So put it down here. Pretty wet, clean my brush off, dab off the excess moisture, maybe pull some of the pigments up. Well, it needs to still be wet when I pull the pigments up. Some of you may be looking at my brush and wondering,
How does it work with a brush like that?
I mean, as long as the tip is still servicing me, everything else is not important. Also, right now I'm doing like some feathering and some wet blending, and those techniques, they often don't require like an uber sharp tip to really kind of work very well. Cool, all right. We lost some white. Let's bring it back. This side looking better than the other side. Of course, it's the back side of the miniature. That's looking pretty nice and glowy. I think we'll just keep working in thin layers of pure violet to really kind of just jack up the intensity. Okay. Maybe we'll do something similar on this side, see if that helps out. Put some down and then kind of pull it up into our other layers. Now, some people might be happy with something like this. I mean, for a gaming miniature, that looks fine to me, but you know, I'm going for that juicy thumbnail, for that ultimate clickbait, so we gotta keep on forging on here. Also, I'm getting toasty. Now that I'm optimally cooled, I can blend for days. All right, let's spend a lot of time working on this. And call this the show side. Oh, cat here, get the heck out of there. Alright, I think the problem is that we don't have like full opacity with our brighter colors anymore. And it kind of looks like the dark color is just like staining over it. I'll often use my wet palette just to add like a tiny amount of moisture to my paint. And you know, that's good for, it's good because it's convenient and it's right there, but oftentimes, you know, you get a lot of color in your sponge and you can unintentionally mix tones, so it's something to be aware of. Now white is kind of a tricky color because you might think you've reached full opacity, but let that sucker dry and turns out you're nowhere near full opacity. So if you're doing white, trying to make something glow and look really intense, you probably need to do, like, I'm not kidding, like 8 to 10 layers of white to really get that popping off, you know what I'm saying? All right, now I'm just adding pure Chimera Violet right to the edge, undiluted, to really bring up the intensity of the purple. Doing some more glazing here. Chimera paints are really nice for this mixing application because the bottle of paint only has one pigment inside of it. And so what that means is when you're mixing two paints, there's no paints that are competing inside of your bottle. There's just one. The more paint the more pigments you have, kind of the more like wrestling and fighting goes on between those various pigments. So to have just the one is nice. It really makes it not complicated. I've said this in the past and I'll say it again. Typically, what my process and what I probably think a lot of people's processes looks like is that you start out with kind of like a heavy application of paint, and then as you work toward your end goal, you start to use thinner and thinner applications of paint as you need to kind of have more gradual control over what you're doing. I like how we have this little bright spot closest to the hilt, and then it kind of just fades out a little bit. Why couldn't this side be on this side? I feel like this always happens to me. All right, some more thin white paint here. I think what I want is a little bit more of a transition. Right here we have like white, that lilac color, and then like intense indigo. I think I want more of a transition of color there. It seems too abrupt. Okay, let's get some thin violet. See if we can work it into that lilac-y color we mixed. I'm liking that. I think it looks pretty freaking cool. All right, let's just, like I said with the white, we'll just add a few more layers, make it more intense. It's too much paint on the brush. Up that contrast coefficient. Put it down, feather it out a smidge. If it's not dry, it's pretty dry. Oh, acrylic paint. And you all wonder why I eat my paint. Well, I still do it when the camera's off and you're not looking. So you can't tell on my wife. until she comes home and she like wants to like kiss me, say hello, and then there's like black paint all over my lips. I like that whiteness toward the hilt. I know I've already said it, but I'm gonna say it again. You're gonna hear it again because this is live and it ain't scripted. So what I say is inefficient. Oop, I ate it. Whoops. Sorry, I didn't want that paint to dry right there. That'd have been no bueno. Or as me and my friends say, kein buen, which is a mixture of German and Spanish, apparently. Oh, that's violet. I don't want that. Dang, that dries super fast. Holy cow. I just put down 100% thick Chimera paint on the edge there. And rinsed my brush, dabbed it off, tried to feather it out, and it was already dry. Damn, son. I don't think that is normal. Haven't been messing with this side a whole lot because it's kind of in a spot that I like, but add some glazes to it, see what happens. Make that glow a little bit more intense. So my idea for this paint job is that I wanted to use purple as kind of like an accent color for my tribe, and this is my champion. And in a tribe there are, there's a similar layout for each tribe. Everyone's got a champion, everyone's got a prince, everyone's got warriors and young bloods and a shaman. And I wanted for my shaman, my champion, and my prince to all have 100% glowy blades. And then for the warriors, I wanted their weapons to kind of be like crackling. Like they're kind of glowing, but not really. And then the young bloods have nothing on their weapon. So it's almost like the more advanced in the clan you get, the glowier your weapon. That's not related at all to what I'm doing right now, but I always talk about how story kind of justifies your paint plan, and that's an example of that happening. I have this super dark edge and trying to transition into it. It's really abrupt. All right, I'm gonna take a step back now and just kind of look at it from afar, give it a few inches of space. Damn, this side, the back side, looks banging. All right, now time to do the OSL. First step, airbrush. I'm just kidding, we're gonna use paintbrush. I just wanted to blow this in my mouth. It was funny though, wasn't it? I'm funny! So I don't have a formal video on object source lighting because I'm not the greatest at it. But this particular model is kind of easier to do, and let me explain why. A big part about OSL that a lot of people don't think about is that object source lighting creates color, but it also creates light. So when you're doing OSL, you can't just take the color of whatever it is you're painting with and then glaze it into the areas that you think the light would shine on. There's a little bit more to it than that. It also casts light, so those parts need to be brighter and colorful. Now in this application, I have a zenithal light source. I painted the model like there was a light source above, and the sword is also above. So it's kind of convenient because I already have the model lit like it's being lit from above, and my OSL is also coming from above. So in this case, I probably can just get away with glazing color in the area where it should be, because my luminance values, the values of light and shadow, are already in pretty much the right spots. There were some areas right here you can see on her forearm where I put a highlight, and then if you switch it around to the other side of the arm, it's a little bit darker on these two sides. And I did that kind of knowing that I was gonna paint this OSL. But otherwise, top down, it's pretty all right. So we'll start with some glazing. We'll just take straight up pure violet, water it down, because damn, this paint seems strong. Dab it off, and we'll start to glaze some purple on here. Now I don't want to wash it on. That's not what I want to do. I want to tint the surface. Get out of there. Get out of the recesses. Okay, maybe a little bit right here. I want some on the forearms. That's faux show. And since I already kind of put my highlights and shadows there, this should just tint that real nicely. Okay. This textured cloak is going to be a little bit difficult to do. So we're just going to have to work slow, kind of. There's not a lot of paint on my brush right now because I don't want this to pool. So I'm kind of just stabbing it in there a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm going to do a few more passes of it. We're back. You know, the thumbnail of this video is definitely gonna be the back of the miniature, let me tell you. Because that side of the sword, whoo! Now I can build up more intensity in the areas that are closer to the blade by just applying more layers of this glaze. Other parts would probably be hit by the OSL, but just not as strongly. I don't really want this like bleeding all over the miniature. I kind of just wanted it like in a little tight area. That was my plan, at least. Now some of you may have the question about like where do you even begin to put the color? And I have a video called How to Highlight Almost Everything. And what it talks about is zenithal lighting and how to know where to put your highlights and your shadows. And if you understand the concepts in that video, which will be linked in the top right hand corner of the screen, then you understand where to put your highlights and your shadows. The only difference is that instead of the sun being your source of light, you have an object in your scene. And likely that source of light is not anywhere near as strong as the sun, so it needs to kind of compete with that a little bit. Okay, for the skin tone, I'm actually going to come in with a highlight color a little bit and put it down because glazing over an African American skin tone with a violet is not creating the light values that I needed to create. So I'm going to put it down where it should be and kind of go from there. And also for the hair, I'm kind of losing definition right now. So I'm going to come in with some violet, which is kind of undiluted, and paint in the recesses of the hair to kind of get some of that definition back in the hair. Okay, so now that we have some stronger lights, and maybe I'll even make some more intense ones. Because this is like the closest thing to this weapon. But now that that's kind of working, now what I'm going to do is come back in with that violet glaze. And glaze from the skin tone, the African American skin tone, into that mid-tone that I had to transition it. Because right now it is a little bit abrupt. But this is an example of how I can't just get away with glazing the violet to make it look like this object is glowing. I needed to actually add a highlight color. Also, I'm not really liking his hair at all. This paint dries pretty fast, so it's pretty nice for glazing. I don't really have to often go back with a hairdryer to dry it. But that also means it's kind of harder to work with for techniques like wet blending and feathering. But nothing a little retarder medium can't solve. All right, I'm gonna take some of this brighter highlight and maybe start to highlight some of these individual pieces of cloth here. Why are you bending so much, lady? Okay, now I'm gonna come back in with some violet and see if I can very gently. Oh, it's not working, it's still wet. I wanted to add some more definition back to that fur. And we're gonna do that. We're gonna actually take a smaller brush to do this because this is kind of a really fine area. And we're gonna do the same thing with the hair. And that gave us some nice, lovely definition. Let me hit this with a hairdryer. Okay. Let's add some brighter spots to the hair. Maybe that was too bright. All right, cool. Now we'll do the same thing with the fur cloak. Maybe the part that's closest to the weapon will get the brightest little highlights, and then as we work away, we'll kind of just get a little bit darker. Okay, a little bit darker. All right, let's get a little bit, let's get even brighter then. Up at the shoulders. Maybe do the same thing with the hair, but we'll water it down because last time I used this, it was kind of a little chalky. Okay, okay. I think the highlight I added was a little bit too bright. All right, cool. That's looking good. Let's go back to glazing. So we'll bring out the bigger brush because glazing with the tiny brush is a waste of time. And we'll keep trying to work this transition a little bit. Now pretty much this entire upper flap of this cloak would be some amount of purple. Also, I totally missed this little shoulder strap thing right here. Okay. Now, just like with the hair and with the fur, we still need to add some definition here. So we're gonna come in with a violet and add some recessed shading to the various details like the bracelets and whatever straps of cloth she has on her arm. Okay, that helped. I think it was looking a little bit weird just because not everything that should be purple was purple, so I just need to keep working the other various areas. Okay, take a step back, take a look at it. It's looking okay. I want to see some, it seems super intense in one area, but then it kind of just entirely disappears. So I'm gonna maybe add a little bit right here, a little bit right here, maybe a little bit more right here. Maybe some right here on the hip. She's kind of holding it behind her head, so there wouldn't be a whole lot spilling anywhere other than just immediately behind her. But yeah, the beauty of glazing is that we can just work really slowly here. And just kind of see if what we're doing is working for what we're trying to do. So I'll add some right here. Maybe I'll take a look Here I can angle it down for the camera. Here's the point of view of the sword. We can kind of take a look at what should be getting hit and what shouldn't be getting hit. So this part right here, maybe a little bit more intense. Just the edge right there of this stuff. And all of this. Now, another thing about OSL when it's competing with a source like the sun or something like that is that oftentimes there's a pretty dark line that divides the light, like the sun and also the OSL light. And that dark line right now, we're kind of taking care of that with our glazing here, because violet's a pretty dark color. So without planning at all, apparently the subject we picked here, an OSL that's directly above, and the color violet is just was just an easier thing to do than maybe a different set of colors. Maybe do some final adjustments here. Kind of smooth out these little patches of purple here by glazing into them with more of that violet. Maybe add some here. I didn't catch this little detail right here. This could probably use some loving. I did not mean to get it all the way over there. Maybe add some, whoa, not that intense. Some intense highlights. Alright, I think we can call it quits right there. I'm pretty happy with the amount of effort that I put into this miniature and the outcome that I got. It took about a little under an hour to get the sword done and also the OSL effect done. I never really know how these kinds of videos are going to go because I'm not doing something I've ever done before. I've never painted a glowy purple sword. So this was kind of an experiment for me, not only in format but also in the subject of what I'm painting. As a reminder, if you guys like this kind of uncut, raw video, you can find several more just like them linked right up there in the top right-hand corner of the screen. If you guys like the channel and you want to support it, there are many ways that you can do it, namely a Patreon campaign with a bunch of fun rewards like a Discord server where you and I can hang out and chat about your miniature painting projects or your favorite kind of food to eat left over. Yeah, anything goes in that server. There are other ways you can support me by buying merchandise or using my Amazon affiliate link while shopping on Amazon. Subscribe or die! But most importantly, don't forget to paint more minis!